You know I'm right. Episode 2 right here on WG Sports Radio. I'm Nick Durst, and joining me today is NHL.com, PA, and MLB's associate media wizard and all-around great guy, Joe Calabrese. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hey, bud. How you holding up over there?
We're in lockdown over here. Not quite yet, but we're holding up much better than a lot of people. And, let's just get right into it here. I don't know, Joe, if we're going to be seeing any NBA or NHL again this season. I think it's highly in doubt at this point. But, if they were to come back, there's no way they're going to finish the regular season. And it's going to be a much shortened postseason if they are even able to schedule it with arenas and have time and whatnot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think they're going to resume the regular season. Doesn't make sense.
So what would you envision them doing with the playoffs? Would each league? I mean, NBA would probably try to do their best to get as many teams in it because they want their ratings and whatnot. NHL, originally they were saying, maybe they'll do 8 teams and they'll do like a 7, 10, 8, 9 play-in. But I think maybe you're looking at best like an 8-team playoff in the NHL and NBA. I think they would probably still try to do 16 teams, but maybe the first round is 5 games, the second round is best of 5 games, and then they take it from there.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It depends on what you want to do. So if you put more teams in, then what they could do is shorten the opening rounds. So, for example, in the NBA, you want to keep the 16, that's fine. I think the standings for the NBA are probably a little more solidified than they are for the NHL, because you know how the NHL fluctuates even at this time of the year, right? So.
All right, the Rangers were only 2 points out. Islanders 1 point out.
They were.
But as of now, if the season ends as it is, and they go to the playoffs, both teams miss out by a point and 2 points. So it fluctuates every day, especially this time of year.
Yeah, it was frustrating as a Rangers fan. They were making a nice little run over there. For hockey, though, I think it makes sense to have one-game play-ins for the wild cards. And then for the first 2 rounds, you could very easily abbreviate it. You could do the first round being 3 games. Second round, you could do either 3 or 5 games. And then for the conference finals and the Stanley Cup final, you could easily do 5 or 7 games. And I think something similar would work for the NBA, pending agreements, obviously, with the Players Association. And obviously, players would need to be compensated for the games lost. But I'm sure this has all been discussed in their inner circles right now. But we may not be seeing these sports come back until at the earliest, probably late June or the beginning of July. And we might have all these sports playing into the summer, which is something we're not used to because we're only used to baseball during the summer,
Right. Here's the thing. Is Chris Kreider back for a July playoff run for the Rangers?
Yeah, it's crazy how all these teams who are hurt.
Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving going to come back and play for the Nets in July.
It's very possible. It is now a legitimate possibility. Kevin Durant has to recover from the coronavirus first, but
well, everyone's getting the coronavirus in the NBA right now. 2 unknown Lakers players getting the coronavirus, and Joe, I think it's just a matter of time before. I mean, Kevin Durant's a huge star, but I guess he really wasn't in everybody's forefront this season with him not playing. But, if we get like LeBron James has coronavirus, I think that's it. Like they're not coming back this season. I think there is a possibility that they're not coming back. It's crazy because if Rudy Gobert didn't have coronavirus, every sport in the world would still be playing right now. Like think about how crazy the last week's been. And, everyone's at work from home now because the NBA stopped. But if you get a big name like LeBron James getting coronavirus, or like, God forbid, one of these celebrities die from coronavirus, that's it. Like, we could be looking at no NBA playoffs, no NHL playoffs. The Olympics are probably going to be canceled. MLB would probably, they might have to cancel the season. Could you imagine how awful that would be? There's no MLB season. And then the NFL, they're in jeopardy too. I mean, right now they're going to do a draft. That's probably going to be ended up over the phone. Maybe they'll just put a camera on Adam Schefter and Mel Kiper from their houses and let them talk. We don't really need anything else. And then it's going to be tough with the OTAs forget about training camp. I mean, this is just could we be looking at like the rest of the year without sports? And the XFL got crushed by this because their season just totally wiped out. Hopefully they get to come back next year, but we're just one big name away from everything going from bad to worse when it comes to sports.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we have some duct tape and pins and needles holding the system together right now. And you're 100% right. If somebody like a LeBron James or like a major A-list celebrities, politicians, if we see them get sick and come down with this virus, then it's just like the domino effect. And in regard to the rest of these sports, you're 100% right with the scheduling too, because now what we're looking at is the drafts for these sports. They're being canceled. The off-season programs for all these teams, they're now being either condensed or they're canceled. But on the bright side, at this time, a lot of these teams and these players are being quarantined. They're getting rest. And I think even if it comes to that and shortening these programs once the time comes, I feel like players will comply and work with these leagues to get these off seasons shortened and done so in an efficient way to try to catch up the schedule heading into next year. Because you can finish out these seasons, and even if the seasons finish in late August, early September, you can do an abbreviated off season. You can come back in the beginning or the middle of November. The NBA can come back in December, and they could do something a couple of years ago when they lost the first couple of months of the season to the lockout, and they did like that abbreviated 64-game season.
That season was great. I loved when the Knicks were playing back-to-back-to-back nights, and they were actually good. Fun times with that scheduling.
Yeah, it was crazy. But
the only thing with the NBA here that they'd be up against it is that, let's say the NBA is coming back, and they come back in May or June, right? All their players, they want to play in the Olympics. So if the NBA is coming back, I'm going to assume the Olympics are still going on. So you got to figure that out, because if they're supposed to be at the end of July in Tokyo playing in the Olympics, it's tough. I mean, I would say Adam Silver's probably does something where it's like, hey, if you're out of the playoffs, then you go play. But I think they're going to have to put the NBA first, even though it's something like all the players, they love to play in the Olympics.
Well, they could always create a different pool of players to choose from, because now we've also reached the point where guys like LeBron James have played in multiple Olympics, and you kind of see this new wave and generation of players kind of starting to filter through and dominate the league. So, I mean, in regard to the playing in the Olympics, if the players who really truthfully want to play in it, they will make it happen. But at this point, just based on the circumstance, I mean, it's not mandatory. I appreciate the pride that they show, especially like basketball players, because they 100% give it all out to these Team USA programs every 2 to 4 years when they come around. That's the one thing you see, and you see over the years coaches like Greg Popovich and Coach K have really, really risen to the occasion and made this system work and kept it working for 20 plus years. So again, if they want to play, more power to them. If a guy like LeBron wants to take another summer off, I mean, I've seen him play in the Olympics multiple times.
He actually didn't play last time in the Olympics. He was looking to get back into it. But also you got to factor in if the Spurs somehow make the playoffs, then Popovich isn't available to coach USA, so who coaches? Is it Van Gundy? Or no, Van Gundy's got to call for ABC the games. And now the other thing we got to keep in mind, which is going to be crazy, is if the NBA comes back, you're looking at the NBA draft coming in the middle of the NBA playoffs. Are players who are drafted automatically eligible to go play next week in the playoffs? Think about that scenario.
Oh no, that won't happen.
That would be insane. And we talked about drafts before, and it really sucks. I heard that they're going to probably cancel the MLB draft. So imagine if you're like a high school senior right now. You didn't even get to play. You thought you were going to be playing this season and then going to minor league ball in the summer. Well, now you're probably going to have to want to go to college because no one's going to see you. And then the seniors in college are, they're screwed because now they're just going to really sit around for the next 18 months. Can't even play anywhere unless they do something with the independent leagues to let them play. and these guys aren't going to be drafted, and it's going to really set everything back as far as minor league baseball goes, a whole calendar year, which is crazy.
Yeah, as the NBA draft, the NHL draft, and now what you just mentioned, the MLB draft, will all likely be postponed.
Absolutely, and it's crazy that all these scenarios. It's just like, what's going to go on, what with the drafts and the player service and whatnot, and everyone's hurting by this. All the leagues across the board, and the players, they're worried about their salaries and service time and free agency. Just imagine a worst scenario here, which is like MLB. They don't play this season, right? These guys sign 1-year deals, and then they don't even play for the team. There's going to be issues, or the leagues are going to say, and the owners are going to say, I'm not paying this guy. He didn't play for me. Or, this guy, Chris Bryant, just to be a free agent after this season. Well, he didn't even play this season, so why should he be a free agent? So think about all the legality there and all those issues that might come up. MLB, I think you're looking at realistically best case scenario, 100-game season. I don't see how they could possibly get more games than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's only going to be a certain amount of days. I think Major League Baseball will do everything in its power to try to work with the local governments and obviously the federal government, and whatever plans of action are going to be taken to benefit us in the coming weeks. And you're right. 100-game season sounds like the best case scenario. We also have to think about what if the season does start in early July? What if it starts in the middle of July? What if it starts in the end of July? Again, there's only a certain amount of dates that we have to work with.
How would you feel about, let's say they start late. They're like, oh, we're going to extend the season. We're going to play through October. And then, we're looking at neutral site November World Series, most likely in Miami in a dome. Neutral site World Series, that way they're able to get games in. There'll be no home field advantage, obviously, but you could be looking at a World Series where, they're playing in a dome in a neutral site, but it's at the beginning of December. How would you feel about that?
If they decide to push it back that far, I think they can make it work. The only thing is, I don't think playing through the entire month of November is necessarily ideal.
Well, I would think they'd start the playoffs in November.
Right, and I could see them starting the playoffs in late October, early November, and then doing something what I think the NBA and the NHL will do, which will be playing an abbreviated postseason. You could easily take 2 games off the divisional series. You could possibly take 2 games off of the championship series. These are measures that I think will probably be discussed and voted upon in the coming months should the seasons start in a timely fashion. As of right now, unfortunately, we're kind of in the dark with most of this stuff. We can only really speculate at this point. I've seen a lot of good ideas out there for all the sports, and again, this is essentially what it'll come down to is the league offices of all these professional leagues and the Players Association. So should these leagues properly compensate and work with the Players Association and provide sensible and tangible measures, then I think this could all work itself out. And again, if you're tacking days off the off-season schedule, in the end, I don't think players, coaches, managers, team personnel, team doctors, front office people, I don't think that's going to make a significant difference. I think they would gladly trade a couple of days off to shorten the off seasons to get these seasons going this year.
The other news in MLB was Chris Sale needs Tommy John surgery. Now, if you've been following the news, all selected surgeries are not to be done at this time. Now, does MLB have some leeway here with this?